Today, Fena Pirate Princess is an adventure anime produced by Production IG. It is written and directed by Kazuto Nakazawa, who is probably most well known for his character designs in Terror in Residence and Samurai Champloo. The music for the series is being handled by Yuki Kajira of Madoka, Fate, and Demon Slayer fame, and most importantly, the series seems to be looking at that age-old question of which is best, pirates or ninjas? The answer is both. Both is good. This video is brought to you by the good people over at Crunchyroll. Visit their website and subscribe to their service to watch new episodes of Fena Pirate Princess as they air, to be caught up with the discussion as the show continues. So the first two episodes were released this past weekend, and it's a good thing too, because despite being two separate episodes, they really are best viewed as just one long episode, you know, to get the feel for how the premiere of this show is going to go. Fun fact, Fena also marks one of the few times that we in the English-speaking world get an anime before Japan does. I don't think that's happened since Space Dandy? I could be wrong with that. It makes sense though, as some of the major producers on the show include Crunchyroll and Adult Swim. Adult Swim was also one of the major drivers for Space Dandy. So is that all it takes? Put it on Toonami and then North America gets it first. Suck it, Netflix. Okay. So what is the show actually about? Well, I joked about the pirate and ninja aspects of the series, but I think that was just being a little too vague. The ninjas are less traditional, and honestly, in the cases of some of the characters, samurai tropes actually fit far better. Also, throughout the first two episodes, we haven't yet seen much of the pirate aspects in full force. Considering that the word pirate is in the title, though, I don't think we'll have to wait all that much longer for that to become far more of a thing, but we'll have to see. The initial episode covers what is essentially a jailbreak, but instead of a criminal being broken out of jail, our heroine Fena both attempts to escape, being sold off to a rich nobleman for the benefit of others, and is also aided by former allies of her family into actually escaping. These allies include the stereotypical, albeit older, knights pledged to her father and a band of secretive ninjas who have apparently been watching her family for generations. What I like about the setup so far is that for most of the characters, it's very easy to see what their deal is while also acknowledging how much we just don't know. Fena herself is like a somewhat brash firecracker, constantly coming up with plans of escaping her fenced-in life, but she's also a bit of an airhead, so most of her plans don't actually have a snowball's chance in hell of working, or are so barely thought out that it only takes a minor hitch to send the whole thing out of control. I like that a lot about her, but so much of her character is still kind of left open to interpretation at this point. She seemed to have been orphaned as a child due to a shipwreck, and her only value has been in what others have seen in her beauty and her rather unique white hair. But we haven't really seen why she has become this self-assured scatterbrain compared to other characters we've seen in similar situations from other media. Princess Garnet from Final Fantasy IX comes to mind. Actually, hold up a second. It just dawned on me that I could title this video the FF9 adaptation that we absolutely deserve and get away with it, because barring the fact that the show has been putting main character emphasis on Fena, unlike what Final Fantasy IX did with Garnet, which focused far more on that game's lead, Zidane, there are quite a few parallels here. Both characters have a mysterious backstory involving getting lost at sea, where they lose their family only to then be raised in an aristocratic society, away from everything that they had ever known. They both get rescued from that situation despite their own plans for escape, with the help of a variety of adventurers, either hired or directed to do so from other family ties. And part of the initial act for their characters sees them both cutting their hair as a symbolic gesture of change. It also helps that both characters now carry a relic of their past family ties that is some kind of clear crystal that may or may not be a massive plot MacGuffin to be used later. Yeah, there are a lot of parallels here, but if you think that I am making any of these comparisons in a bad way, if you think that this is a slight on the show, then you are sorely mistaken. Final Fantasy IX is one of my favorite classic Final Fantasies from that era, and honestly, the amount of comparisons I can make, whether intentional or not, actually gives me hope that the writing might end up going in a similar direction, or at least a direction that will be equally as satisfying, which is kind of all that I want. Fena doesn't seem to be the kind of show that wants to misdirect you into thinking that it's cooler than it actually is. I feel like it's very genuine with the adventure it's trying to set up, even if parts of it we've seen done before in other ways. Fena herself, despite being an orphan for the last bunch of years, completely separated from her family, gets wrapped up in a far grander story than what her life had been as of late. And I could just scream that it's a cookie-cutter chosen one kind of archetypal story, and I'm not trying to argue it's not, but I feel like the narrative, at least so far, is trying to own that part of it. It's trying to be like, yes, Fena is certainly a special person with her pure white hair and mysterious family lineage, but it's not so serious that it doesn't know when to poke fun and have things go wrong for comedy's sake. The comedy itself isn't there for laughs either, which I appreciate. It's not a gag series or written in a way that is specifically trying to be funny. The comedy here is like what Fullmetal Alchemist was famous for, where the comedy is never the focus, but it's there to provide some levity. Now, in FMA's case, that very much helped the narrative by balancing out the other aspects of its story that were far darker than average. And I have a feeling and a very large hope that Fena never intends to go that dark, but the format is the same. That's my point. We've seen some clips from upcoming episodes in promotional material, which thankfully does alleviate some worries I have about a show with pirate in the title, but very little pirating in the initial episodes. Like, I'm not expecting One Piece or anything. Heck, just have a loyal crew and at minimum a boat, and I'm good. But the footage also seems to add to my feeling that Fena might end up having a lighter tone overall, which in and of itself isn't a problem. But comparing that with the highly epic feeling of the initial trailers, and it makes it hard to get a feel what the tone of this series as a whole is gonna actually be. We just kind of have to hope and pray that things continue to be as good as they have been moving forward. Production IG has been kind of stealthily existing in the background the last several years. I can talk about how Joker Game from 2016 was a dark horse of that year, or how Psycho-Pass 3 was actually good, but considering how little both of those shows were talked about, even as they were airing, it's not entirely wrong for me to admit that they didn't necessarily garner much attention, at least here overseas. So with luck, Fena will change that. IG has always been one of my favorite producers of anime, even though I think that this style of show is a bit out of their comfort zone. On the other hand, when we're talking about the company that produced Cromartie High School, I could argue also that they might not even have a comfort zone anymore, so hopefully that works out for them. Really though, seeing IG's name attached to it actually just makes me feel like what's going to happen with Fena is that it's going to be a great series that I personally end up enjoying because it somehow magically lines up with a bunch of my tastes, but then I'll be disappointed in how little other people actually talk about it. Granted, that is, of course, before considering how much marketing that the series is actually going to get and how many eyeballs that'll drag to it. At the end of the day, if you are wanting a well-polished action-adventure series by a group of creatives that seem to know what it is they want to do and how to do it, then Fena doesn't look like it'll disappoint. Having Adult Swim on board with the knowledge that it'll eventually be broadcast on Toonami also makes a lot of sense to me, since the series so far has been a ringer for the kind of show that does end up on that block. So if you've been a fan of the kind of anime that has been known to do really well on Toonami, you'll absolutely love Fena. Unless it decides to absolutely drop the ball later, I am looking at it as a series that is standing out in a season with a whole bunch of decent but not outstanding shows. The last few seasons of anime that we've had this year have been absolutely stellar, so having a down season isn't all that bad, but I am still glad that we have something like Fena in the genre that I can honestly look forward to week after week. As usual, there will be a link in the description to watch the series on Crunchyroll, who were nice enough to sponsor this video. A very special thank you to our patrons who support the work that I do here and allow me to keep doing what I do in the way that I like to do it. And for that, I am eternally thankful. Specifically though, we would like to thank patrons Sergeant Nemo 1, Ryfen Bonaparte, Siri Yamiko, Wago221, Calhoun Boy, Hector Montemayor, and Omar Showman for being especially awesome. Until next time, ladies, gentlemen, and others, watch more anime and stay frosty.